Welcome to Beyond the Ballot AZ. I'm your host, Tom Collins, Executive Director of Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission.
And I'm Gina Roberts, Voter Education Director for Clean Elections.
Today we're talking about the unsung hero of civics, our public libraries. You know, before the internet, if you can remember that, libraries were where people went to understand the world, and to this day, they embody the values that democracy demands: free and equal access to information.
This is so true, Tom. Librarians are trained information professionals who teach media literacy. And in this time of misinformation, they're more vital than ever. And today's guest is from Arizona's longest continuous library.
So, Gina, you're an information sponge and a researcher at heart. No, so you really love a library.
I do. It's my happy place. I mean, hey, you want to go get coffee? You want to go to the library? Yeah, absolutely. And I have two kids. So from the moment they were born, we spent so much of our time in our public library. In fact, Tom, so there's a limit on how many books that you can check out at a single time. And I remember, I was a little upset because I'd have to split that 3 ways, right? With my two kids, until I realized, oh my gosh, why have I not gotten them their own library card? And when I did that, oh my gosh, it was amazing.
How did you keep track of all those books around the house? Did you ever have a lost book?
So actually, the great thing about the library is they will email you, a receipt of everything that you've checked out. So that helps us keep track of things.
We had, when Captain Activate is a fearsome advocate for libraries and a fighter against disinformation. And so, of course, naturally, Captain Activate has done multiple activities at the Phoenix Public Library and the Tempe Public Library through the years. So you might catch him there sometime down the road.
I think it has always been like my dream job to actually work in a library. I would probably change careers with our guest in a heartbeat. But, what was your experience, Tom, growing up?
Well, my mom was a librarian by training and worked as both a public librarian and a school librarian for basically most of my childhood and adolescence. So we spent all summer, every summer, volunteering, so to speak, in the library. Often she'd be in the school libraries that had not been updated. So this was in the 90s. And when the transition to some of the kind of technology and availability that our guest is going to talk about was just happening. So one of the things we got to do was go through a school library that hadn't been updated, say, since the 1950s. So there would be books on the shelves that predated the moon landing, that predated all kinds of scientific discoveries. And so I thought was kind of fascinating, to go through those and read about like what sort of history was before so many things we take for granted had happened. And then, my mom started a little readers theater at the public library she worked at when I was a kid.
We still use the library, not just for reading today, but we would go and meet up at the library for his tutoring sessions. And they just have so many amazing resources.
And so the librarian we're going to hear from today works at, as Gina said, in our longest continuously operating library in Arizona. And they have so many different services and features they offer. It's a really exciting interview. So we're happy to bring that to you. We're here with Alison Williams, Library Service Coordinator at the Copper Queen Library in Bisbee. Alison, the Copper Queen Library has received some notable accolades, so thanks you for being here. We want to talk a little bit about this. Tell us a little bit about the Copper Queen Library.
Absolutely, I would love to. Hi, I'm glad to be joining you today. The Copper Queen Library is the oldest continuously operating library in the state of Arizona, and is a historic landmark in its own right. And our library sits at the heart of Old Bisbee, which is also a historic district. So the whole district neighborhood is protected as well. And that means, that there are design elements that keep our neighborhoods looking historic, the same way as when they were built over 100 years ago. So We did win Best Small Library in America in 2019, and we also received the National Medal for Museum and Library Service in 2024, which was just the most amazing trip. We went to Washington, D.C. My boss, Jason Makoviak, who's our library manager, has been running this library the last 10 years and hired me 10 years ago. And we have really tried to look at the historic edifice and the history of the library as caretakers and protectors to really keep this aspect of our library alive and preserved, while at the same time bringing the library services and collections into the 21st century. So what that means is really looking at technology, looking at access, bridging divides, and finding ways to preserve and protect while also expanding new knowledge in how we do things. So we have a 21st century library now.
Alison, how does it feel to live my dream? Like, really, this just sounds so amazing. Everything you just described is so impressive and, fantastic for the state of Arizona. I mean, those are major accolades there. So tell me, Alison, about, what would it look like for maybe some of your regular patrons who visit the library, but also tourism, right? That's a thing. People, travel and they visit libraries. I mean, that's something I would love to do, right? So what does that look like for the people who visit?
You're a library tourist, and I am as well. It is wonderful to have people from out of town visit while they cannot get a library card as a resident of Cochise County. They are able to have access to so many of the services that we provide, including printing and scanning and internet and a cool place to bring your kids. And we have a maker space. But for our community, the way that we have expanded our collections and our services over the last 10 years, I think they're two favorite, like really big things, I think. The first is that we opened an annex in the San Jose neighborhood. So it's an offsite collection rather than a separate branch. We are small and rural. We certainly cannot afford a separate branch. But there was an empty boarded up school building. We were alone in the building at the beginning. Then the district moved in, and then a group called the Bisbee Science Lab also moved in. So we really created this community center feeling for the neighborhood. We were able to reach out to a lot more kids, but also a lot of retired people who live in the neighborhood. They came in droves. They volunteer with us. They help us. They hang out. So the great thing about the annex also is that we were able to expand our library of things by creating a full tool library with saws and drills and a shop vac and a push lawnmower and ladder and all kinds of wonderful things, which really addresses, that is bridging the divide. A lot of older people who are maybe on their Social Security or pensions can't necessarily afford home repairs to go out and find a contractor, but they also can't afford the tools if they were able to do it themselves. Sometimes you just need that drill for a minute. That was at the heart of winning the National Medal and Best Small Library in America.
Well, so see, libraries, they're not just about books, right? There's more things that you can check out. Yeah, I know my local one has seeds, plant seeds. I'm like, this is amazing.
So one of the things I was interested about is, Bisbee has this sort of, such an important city to the history of the state, right? I mean, it was a booming city in the height of the copper mining industry. And then in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the population of the town plummets, and it had to sort of recreate itself. So how do you see the library? Does the library fit within that aspect of the city?
Absolutely. The library is at the core. My manager, Doug Graham, and his brother, who come from a old mining family. His father ran the mine. They created a geological timeline of Bisbee from the first volcanic eruption millions of years ago. And they placed a tiny little Copper Queen library on this map. So as you watch the geological strata form and the epochs pass by, the library sits there as that focal point. I really appreciated that symbolism, because the library was actually started by the first mining company in 1882. Investors in the mine, it was just a claim, and was starting to produce, and it was becoming a camp, a mining camp. First librarians were mining employees, and in fact, all the way up to the closure of the mine in 1975, I believe, the mining company gave the library to the city of Bisbee, and so we are now all government employees and publicly run. But understanding that arc, that historical arc, I think also for me illuminates that sense of noblesse oblige from the previous century and the 19th century as well. The idea that very, very rich people had an onus, a responsibility, a burden to the community where they had set up their corporation to make money, right? That idea of fostering the community, growing the community, and supporting the community through arts and education in order to make their company better too, right?
Yeah, it's not a binary where we're just going to have capital sort of, if you will, take what it wants and leave the community behind.
Yes. And that company, has been absorbed by more recent companies. Our most recent is Freeport-McMoRan owns all of the old Phelps Dodge mines, and they also have a foundation and support us, like our summer fund program. They sponsor that so that we're able to buy hundreds of books and give away a book a week per child during the summer as a build your home library experience, so that there's always a book on the shelf for you that doesn't have to be returned to the library.
Well, that's fascinating. Here at Clean Elections, we absolutely support and encourage literacy and ultimately, civic engagement. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Ballot AZ. I'm Gina Roberts.
And I'm Tom Collins. We'll see you next week.